Well, hello, this is Dr. Chris Lemmon, and this is a little chat that we have for November. Um, Last month, uh, I talked a little bit about watching for language, look at emotional language. This month, I'm talking about influence for November. So, Uh, Normally, when we're teaching classes, we teach people protocols where we call ground their body. They kind of connect their body to the planet. That kind of intensifies feelings. So you feel things a little bit, and and then we give them some techniques to run their energy. It's like not mystical, magical, the answer to everything. It's just simply basic training to get you to be able to feel the energy flowing in your body and when something is going on. Um, People in sports get usually get that sensation of feeling where it's at. Most certainly, dancers do. So it's not an uncommon phenomenon, but for a lot of people where they don't do a lot, they sit down at a desk, they work at that type of work where they're not moving around a lot. They don't have a sport or an activity, and they really just don't have a sense of whether energy is moving in their body or not. So I had a bunch of questions, and that's why I threw that in as they said, what if you haven't taken classes? What can you do? Well, you can look at the language you use. Why am I repeating some of this from last month? Because this month, dealing with influence, the language you use are influences. They're triggers, they're switches. There's an influence, right? A dimmer switch is an influence. A volume switch is an influence. Turns volume up, turns volume down. Learning more skills about a particular topic most certainly has an influence. Um, Somewhere next year, we'll start to talk about concepts and ideas or some theories and start to play around with that. Um, but for the most part, right now, it's just that we start to recognize with any potential you have, no matter what it is, whether you learn something new or you have a skill set, then influences come in and they can make it better or make it worse, right? We see people that get depressed, and that's certainly a story that it produces an influence. But then after a while, they start drinking, and now you have two influences that are not working, and one influence doesn't resolve another one. At some point in time, they're going to have to lose the second one and go back and address the first one. So we store things in our body. We have experiences and we store them in the neocortex, and we like to update them when we can access them. Some files we access because they're redundant, they occur, and we can then update them. And we develop some mastery of those particular ones because we're updating on a regular basis. Sometime it was a one-all. You fell down when you were 2 years old and you were standing there crying in the middle of the store and you're all embarrassed or whatever the story is. And so ever since then, you're a little pansy or or don't want to go out in public or whatever. And and it's not that it's a deceptive, and it's not that it's a lie. Most certainly, it's an influence. Uh, the fact that you remember it tells me there was probably another influence before that, sometime earlier, that set you up for that experience. So if you remember the story, then that's called a subconscious influence, or at least my terminology. Today, the world of psychology slowly corrects and deviates and developed all kinds of crazy fields and divisions and so yeah, all bets are off today for what something is going to mean because they have a lot of more diversity in meaning. So our dictionaries are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I don't know how many thousands of words we have now, but it's like it's bad enough because we have words that can be used in several different ways. And usually when we're talking to someone, we get an accent or an emphasis on something, and we know the way they're talking, or we get the content. Uh, doesn't quite work that way in text messages, which is part of why I don't text. It's like people, way back when, I would answer someone real quick with a text message, and they would misunderstand so many times. So I realized, wow, uh, when I was talking to them, it was really clear. So we not only imprint with our movement more communication and language, but our energy field actually influences the people. Now this has been documented and researched over and over again. We can seed a group with ideas and concepts Come on, salesmen have all sort of been doing this forever. I mean, right? Can we get everybody together for some type of retirement banquet or some type of investment group, and they all buy you dinner, and you know, it's all influential. It's constantly under the level of influence, somewhere, shape, or form out there. Can get by a day, even when you think it's all redundant. Um, all people do when it's redundant, same, same, and they don't notice a difference. It's not a very healthy state, but they just narrow that down. Give you an example, and that is people in prison. I did some work where I was uh, having some conversations with prisoners trying to get data out them in a prison system. Actually, it was in California. And so I was talking to prisoners trying to get some information. They have a really narrow, redundant lifetime. And so I had to kind of get in to that little gap between my range is in life right now. I walk X amount of feet back and forth, and I get to do this and this time and that time, and very, very little on their list of to do things. And then they have this time doing nothing, so they have a lot of fantasies. And so when you're interviewing someone like that, they're telling you things, and it's more fantasy than reality because the reality is very, very limited. And then I have to listen to at the time. I didn't do it for very long, but I had to listen to their fantasies and then be able to extract from that different things that might have been real. I got people that killed several people. They have stories about killing all kinds of other people that they're telling me about. I mean, once you're caught and you're going to be in prison the rest of your life, another murder or two or three or five doesn't make any difference, right? So they're telling me, I get buddy buddy with them. Now they're telling me, about all these things. Well, what we found is that they have a big story with details, how they killed people, where they buried them, everything. And it's like we go out there and some of the places we found bodies and we could close those cases, and some of the places there was nothing there. So there's a there's a gap. When a range narrows down, the gap, the stream of potential that we all have in some way, shape, or form, then starts to flower into wonderful ideas that aren't necessarily applicable in their life there. Well, sadly enough, we find people not in prison that have that same narrow range and are very, very routine on what they do. Yeah, I personally like getting involved with something, get excited, finding about it, how to get a lot of details with it, and then move on and do something else, and then do something else. So people come back and say, "How comes you have done everything, so many different things, almost everything we talk about, you've done?" And I go, I, I'm just a really big failure. I try everything and I fail at it. Uh, sometimes they buy that, sometimes they don't. I try something, I do it for a little while, and I decide, do I want to put more energy into it? Because I can feel the energy flow. I can feel the energy it takes. So I'm going like, do I want to invest more in this? Do I want to do more of this? So if it's fun, I'm learning something, it's good experience, I'm making new friends, we're helping somebody somewhere. Hey, this is cool. I'm up for that. But all of a sudden, if I see that everybody's trying to build some type of an ism out of this, and oh, this is the right way and the wrong way, and blah, 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 it's like, whoa. Uh, if you learn the right way about anything, the only option for you now is death. What else is there, right? So you better engage in a lot of different things. And some things you start learning about and you go, this is really boring. I don't want to learn any more about this. So we move on to another topic. I I like art museums. I'm not a big fan on history because in my mind, I didn't see where we really learned a whole lot of lessons from our history. We we have a tendency to repeat a lot. Matter of fact, life is pretty much repetition. We learn something and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Um, if we learn, we do know today, if we learn several different series of related fields and then repeat those, we can eventually become a better expert than somebody who just gets one aspect of a task and learns everything there is about it because they'll endure for longer, right? Um, we run out of literally run out of data. It's almost like And then someone else has to bring something novel into the topic to expand out. That's so you start to see influencers are so essential and always there all the time, no matter what. I got I was working today and my arms get battered up, you know, nailing things, banging things, whatever. And and truthfully, when I come in the house, my wife's always checking me for blood. Are you bleeding anywhere? Sticking band-aids all over me. Um, like whatever. And that's fine. I don't want to bleed all over the place. She's not worried about me dying. She's worried about making a mess on the floor and then to clean it up. So, well, I think also she worries about my health. Um, but for the most part, it's like, so I've got these armbands she gets me that I put on my arm. They work really good. And I'm banging something, I brush up against something that's got a point on it or a splinter or a piece of wood or rebuilding something. And and it actually protects me. It does a really, really good job. But now I'm cleaning up and I get all my tools away and I take those armbands off and put them away. And then I grab my ladder. I'm going to put it where it goes in storage. I'm just carrying my ladder and I turn around and the ladder starts to tip and I grab it and it scratches my arm. And there I'm standing looking at the blood running down my arm. I'm going like, oh wow, I guess I took those arm braces all too soon. Uh, those are influences. You get this, everything you look around is an influence. We start to look at something and we manage something. I'm right now doing a building project and I've got, I'm down to where I got some stuff I built and now I got to paint it. So I have to wait for the temperature to get warm enough so that when I go out there and paint it in the morning, it will dry because it gets down to maybe 50 at nighttime. The paint's never going to dry. So I got to get up in the morning and come around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it's 70 degrees out there. And then I paint it, and it gets up to 75 or 79 in the daytime. And then by the time it gets to be dark, why, the paint is dry or reasonably dry. And I just got to let it sit for a couple of days. Those are all variable influences. We have everything you can think about in your life as influences. So you learn something and you look at all the influences. And that's what I like to do. I look at something and I say, how many influences in there? Because if I'm going to go for a hike in the woods or going to go for a swim in a lake or do anything, there's going to be influences. I really need to get some more data. It's not a question of cautions, because being aware of cautions is noticing the influences, but it's also a chance to see potentials. So we humans are geared up more to look for cautions than potentials. Most are, pretty sadly, right? And next year we'll talk a little bit about that switch where it goes from uh, I can't get hurt to where, wow, I think I can do this. It's a little dangerous, but yeah, I could do this. Um, can you jump off a one-story roof? I don't know. I actually took a class one time. We were laying on a roof and we rolled to the edge and dropped like a cat on the grass. And and so we were learning how to gear it so you roll down and you swing over at the right timing so that when you drop down, your toes and your hands catch the ground and you don't get hurt. Um, I don't know if I ever utilized it for anything, but the guy that was teaching it used to be he told us that he used to be a cat burglar, and now he's teaching people who do roof work or do other things like that how to do things. And even if you're, yeah, putting up TV antennas, anything up on a roof, and you can look at the edge and you can find a way to. It looked like it was a little complicated, but a lot of people try jumping and then break their ankles. So he was saying there's a better option for your body having mass go out rather than all compress. And so it was good logic. It was a good class. It was kind of fun. I've never used it for anything. I never really wanted to be a cat burglar and never, decided that falling off a roof was wise in any way, shape, or form. But somewhere in my head, I've got the data. I'm sure I'd probably implement that. I should do a little practice first. But anyway, those are the things that we start to play with. We look at all those influences, and some of them no longer have utility for you. but you start to know the gap or the pieces of it, right? I've gone things like years and years ago when I was in college, I did some stained glass work. Uh, Most of what I was doing was selling stained glass windows. I would talk to people in nice homes and I would show them some ideas and some illustrations and some pictures, and then I would quote the jobs for them. And then I had a team of people and then we would put them together. So I did some grinding, I did some cutting, I did a little bit of everything, soldering, all the above. Um, but my main task was to bring in the jobs. Other people had certain things that they like doing, putting foil on the glass and before you solder it. And some people, that's sticky and it's boring, but some people love doing that. So it's like, yeah. So we had a little balanced niche for a short period of time. And then after, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, why everybody had other things coming up. Some went to school somewhere else. Some did this, some did that. I just got buried in classes and I said, okay, I'm done. I got to get back to schoolwork. And so I had a lot of different jobs when I was in college just to pay all the bills. But it's like, but I never went back and did the same job next summer. Every summer I went into something different. Whatever materialized, I would just decide, okay, I need to find a job, and I'd start interviewing, and 2, 3 days later, I'd have a job, and that's it. That's fine, whatever. And I would do that for the summer. Um, so it got me out of school, and everything was paid for. This was back, I'm old. This was back in the days where you could actually go to college and have it paid for by the time you graduate. Not quite so today, but that's another influence. And you have to then look at, we have people not going into certain fields because it's so expensive to get a degree in those fields. And and then you have so much debt service that you're forever and a day trying to pay it off. And so, doesn't it doesn't even though you might be a higher pay rate, it's like you have a lot of debt. All these are influences. Why are they important? Well, anytime you start to go on what we'll call a spiritual journey, spiritual journey just means that you're getting a better relationship. Spirit, I don't see it as a ghost. I see it as a theme, right? So the spirit of something is the theme of something. And so when I look in life, if I'm going to become a musician, I'm going to get into the spirit of becoming a musician. I'm going to listen to music, see what type I like. I'm going to play with a couple instruments. I'm going to see which one I play. Usually musicians have been at it for a while, play several instruments after they get good at it. So, that's the spirit of something. So when I look at going on a spiritual path, I'm looking at, let's see all those influences that I could then get some mastery on or have a relationship or realize this is not working for me. Oh, I'm going to go do this over here. And and so that's the whole nature to me of the spirit of adventure, the spirit of developing, the spirit of being, or the spirit of you. And so the spirit of you then is trying to find what diversity you can have. And as you get diversity and get a wider and wider range, more influences come in. The bigger the range, the more influences that come in. Uh, I could, I could get. There was a time when I had a little center, and I would get 12, 14, 15 people in for classes. Then pretty soon we were getting to the point where I would, I would get 50, 60 people in for classes. There was no room for them, so I had to get a bigger building. And then we finally got up to where we'd have 100 people coming in for a talk or something. And then I had to get a couple of buildings. I had to shuffle things around because it was too full. Uh, the nature of success, for as long as it ran for success, then when I retired, I quit all that, tried to give it to someone else. And everybody else looked at it and said, no, you were crazy enough to do this, but we're not going to do that. So it's like, so I moved on. Um, And that's just the nature of, I was an influence for a lot of people for a long time. I really had a lot of fun. And in their own right, they were a huge influence for me. Uh, the worst thing a person can do is think they got it all figured out or think they're doing it right. As soon as you think you're doing it right, you find that someone else does it differently. Maybe not as good, maybe better, right? And so you have to take a look at that. I've seen people that would operate on a certain skill set, a certain task, and they were kind of slow. They didn't seem really efficient. But then later on, I saw them doing a little diversity. This was in electronics, electrical work, and they were really quick. I seen another guy that was absolutely amazing as a painter. He could paint so fast. He spent all this time putting all this drop cloths down, and he just basically splattered paint over everything. Very sloppy. He spent a lot of time cleaning up, but he put all these drop cloths down. He just rolled them all up and said, "The heck with it." So I was working some summer for a painting company, and I was painting meticulously, and he was just slopping, but the biggest brush, the biggest bucket, he just putting paint on. So it was all right. Summer was over. I quit the job, and he became a painter. So somewhere he's got, a garage full of paint cloths and tarps and God knows what all for his style of painting. So is that right or wrong? Well, you know, I don't mind doing a job, but a lot of times cleaning up the mess from doing a job is really time consuming. And so I like to stay organized. I like to keep it clean. I like to put my tools away. I don't have to spend hours looking for things. I don't have things scattered all over the place. I, I'm not a big fan of all that cleanup, but you always have to do some. I'm working on a partial job. I'll clean that area up so when I come back and work on something else, I'm not in a mess. So where'd that come from? Well, it come from me working on a lot of jobs and being one of those people that made a mess and then go, wow, I don't like cleaning this up. So I changed the way I did it. The influence led me to alter my style once I attended to it. You have to get attention. If you're not attending to it, the influence just simply means more of a nagging or argumentative piece. I have so many people that said, you're doing it wrong. And I said, you know, I like to make mistakes and I'm getting better at making mistakes. It used to be I can only make 4 or 5 mistakes a day, but now I can make 25, 30 mistakes a day. I'm really getting good at it. My goal is to get up to 100 mistakes a day. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Well, I was talking crazy, right? But if they're going to judge me on my mistakes, I better tell them my goal for mistakes, right? Because every time I learn something new, I make mistakes. And for a while, and then I figure it out, and then I expand it out and learn something else. Maybe that goes along with it, and then I make mistakes and I figure it out. So, yes, learning is pretty much making 100 mistakes, and then you've got a bigger piece of the pie, a bigger range of it. So, influences are essential. So all the classes that I used to teach, some way, shape, or form, we would do exercises and you would start to see how that influences you, what that does to your body. What has that just done? Where does that switch? We'd have people sit down one on one and pretend they're mad at someone. They just tell them off, just like you hate their guts. Just tell them off, you know, and then sit down and say, wow. And then notice if the other person's not in reaction, they're just kind of watching you. You sit down and notice how long it takes for you to get out of that rage you just built up to do this exercise. And you go, wow. So then you start to learn it's like, wow, if I put a lot of energy in this rage and scream and holler at someone and tell them they're an idiot, then it takes me a while to shut it down. And after I do shut it down, I don't feel very good. It's like I'm just drained. I just want to go lay down. Like, wow, it just took a lot of energy to do that. Uh, very, very interesting. We then learn to think about what we're going to do with our energy. Think about what we're going to put it into. Think about it into a bigger scope. I have a project coming down. I'll make some notes. I'll look some things up. I'll research a little bit. I'll ask some people. I'll kind of build out a template so I can see what's going to go wrong. Always things go astray somewhere. And so you just kind of figure, oh, okay, I got that. I got that. I can handle this. I got that. What am I going to need? Am I need anything special? And I like to have it all set up before I go. In the very, very beginning, that takes a lot of thinking and a lot of time. And after you've done it for 80 years, like I have, it's kind of like, yeah, it's pretty much, it's just like it comes together pretty fast, actually. Um, but it just takes practice and attention and attention and attention. I have forever been telling people to pay more attention, and they say, why? And I said, so you can see the influences. If somebody says, I have a gift for you, and we were supposed to meet for coffee and you didn't show up, so I gave your gift to some homeless person. Like, really? Like, well, you didn't show up, right? Like, wow, what are the consequences of the influence? Like, wow. So they were setting up for a gift, and now they're setting up for your failure. Interesting. Uh, and, and is that person bad or good or what? You haven't paid enough attention to what was going on to be able to cast a judgment. You don't have enough range in it. If you had an appointment with someone and you don't show up, you don't have enough range in it. And and I get people that they come back and they say, well, things happen. And I say, yeah, things happen. For some people, things happen all the time. So how many days do you have a day off where you just go through town back and forth, little town, 4 or 5 times to see if you can catch all the lights green, get a sense or a feel of the timing? What does it take? And they go, what do you want to do that for? Just see if you can influence it, right? It's like, wow. Uh, I used to do that as an exercise. We'd have a little hole in the wall town with like 12 lights in it. We would then, the students would get a project. We would have to pace yourself so you can get all the way through the town and every light green. And then start to take a look and say, wow, I failed that time because someone pulled out or somebody did that. It's like, wow, that's interesting. Can I do it again and lose that influence? Can I set it up better? Do you think you weren't participating when someone pulled out in front of you? Like, wow, then then you're a victim to whatever crisis occurs. I'm not saying we want to control the world because we can't do that. I'm saying we need to attend to the influences. What if all of a sudden you're driving down and you find yourself changing lanes? You go, what'd I do that for? And then you see someone pull out and you go, well, it's a good thing I did that. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to catch the light screen now. Uh, but we're not always conscious of these influences, but we start to pay attention to them. We start to notice that we're not reacting to something in a rage, we're reacting to something because it's just discovered. For us to get in our brain, figure out what's going on, and then analyze it and determine what we're going to do next is what we're supposed to do in decision making. But you don't always have that. So then you have to depend on some program sitting inside you that was influenced into you, and then it runs an automatic reaction, but it is not adapted. So it makes all things similar. You have a special situation that you're doing an exercise, something going down, and you're going along, you go like, oh, okay, I get that. I can feel this. I can, hmm. Or lots of times I just like, I'll go a different way. And it's like, and then I get where I'm going. And it's like, well, did it take longer? Did it take less time? Uh, I don't know, but then when I get going back, I find it's a good thing I went that way because you have the remnants of a big traffic accident and the road was blocked for a while and I just missed it. Can I always do that? No, no, you can't always do that. Can you sometimes do that? I have had people tell me stories about a couple of times they did it. I said, that sounds great. Do more of that. They go, I don't know how to do more of it. Well, that's why I have classes, teach you how to do more of it. And all you have to do is learn that there's an influence, energy's flowing, you have a reaction to it. Take a look at that. What is it doing? What is it pulling you? Where's this going? Is all in alignment. Feel it. Feel it. Feeling influences. Huge secret, like learning a class. You sit in a class and you're learning things, you go, oh, I don't get this. I don't get this at all. It's like, okay. So what do I need to do? I need to look at those things as not these are the facts and I got to learn them. I got to look at those things as those are influences that affect this out picturing. So I've got to take a look at the basics and say, this is the way it works. And this influence makes it better. So I could do it without those influences, but that improves it. This goes over here, this goes over here. Oh, then I start to see all those elements in there. I say, it looks very complicated. It is very complicated. But if I look at the basic structure, doing one, two, three, that's it. And then I see these other five influences that map it out. Like, oh, now I can see the relationship. You have to, for yourself, separate out where the influences are, where they're coming from, because otherwise, automatic programming just puts that in there, and that automatic programming might have been from you age 2 or 4 or 3, like way out of date. So you constantly got to look for influences, pay attention to them, and then when you go to sleep at night, hopefully you're getting 6, 7 hours sleep. Those files will update in your neocortex, and and all your awareness of all that stuff and your range will start to expand. You differentiate from. So I know this sounds pretty redundant, but converting a new idea into your life is taking a potential and making it redundant. Life is mostly redundant, 90 some percent redundant. I'm drinking coffee, pretty redundant. Do I drink a lot of coffee? Yeah. I looked around for a vice. It's like I don't want a vice to find me. I want to go find a vice. So I thought, wow, um, for a long time I drank nothing but tea, but then I had a job where everybody was drinking coffee and I was drinking tea. So I thought, wow. So I switched to iced tea and I was drinking iced tea all the time. And they were drinking hot coffee. And they go, how can you drink iced tea on a cold day? I said, I don't know. How can you drink coffee on a hot day? Like, so you're drinking coffee, you have a program, you drink coffee certain times a year, you drink soda pop in the summertime. I don't drink soda pop. All I drink is iced tea. So for a few years, I drank iced tea. And then I said, okay, so much for iced tea. It's kind of a pain about making it and everything, having it around, appearing. So coffee was easier. So I just switched to coffee somewhere. Uh, when I had a center, we had herbal tea in the center just because people that don't drink a lot of coffee and have just a little bit every now and then have a reaction to that caffeine. You drink as much as I do. I don't know. Is it killing me? Maybe. I'm 82 now, but I don't know. Uh, so, if they put that on my death certificate, died from overdose of coffee, then I guess we can say it's killing you. But other than that, why, it's kind of some days it wakes me up. But most certainly, travel a lot. And when I'm traveling out there in the desert somewhere or in some part of the country in Africa, but traveling, I was always had a cup of coffee, drinking coffee. Everyone else was looking around for something to drink, mostly beer or soda pop. And I said, nah, I don't want to drink beer or soda pop. I'll stick with coffee. So you start to see selecting your influences. Do you have a relationship with that? What do you want to do? What does it do to your body? What's so familiar? Can you work with this? It's just, it's the more skills that you have with this, the more attention you pay to it, the more data you get, the more the files update, the more information that you can put in there. Because when we update files, we throw a lot of garbage out. We then conserve. We update files, we throw garbage out. We go through and we find things that are very, very old and we haven't done it for a long time. We get rid of it. Right. So I'm constantly throwing things away. I got stuff stored and my wife says, what do you got those for? And I said, I'm saving them. I have all kinds of ideas that I was going to do that with those. And I'm trying to decide whether that is marketable. And say marketable. Yeah, I could build it. I used to build a lot of projects. And what I did when my kids were little, every August, we would put together, three of us would sit and we'd put together a project or a couple of them, especially my daughter. Her son was only with me for a short time, but most certainly for my daughter. So we put together a project. We would build things. we would then take them to one of those Christmas shows, October or somewhere late October, first part of November, and sell all those things, crap shows, right? And then get money from all that. So we had a project, we put it all together, we built it, we took it to market. We didn't make tons of it. We made enough just to sell. We got the money back. And then she had money, I had money, and my son was there, he had money, and we could buy Christmas gifts or whatever. You see, it's just simply influencing something, making a project, getting together, using that utility to work together as a team, and then accomplish a potential, having some money in your pocket to go out and be able to determine what you're going to do, how you're going to celebrate, your life this year. All right. So I'm just throwing out the nature of influences. Next year, I'm going to start to talk a little bit about theories. I never taught any of my theories because I think that the big problem we have is people tend to think, well, there's one right thing. Um, God, we just don't get over that. If we have all these people and all these people have different things they're doing and different potentials, then I'm sorry, there's a lot of right things. And there's a lot of things that people do different ways. Some might be better and some might be worse, but they do them however they do them, right? Um, and it's like, and they might, some of them get really good at doing them the wrong way. It's like, it's okay. So I stayed out of putting through the theory and say, here's the answer to everything. There's thousands of books out there, and I don't know, another million YouTube videos that are telling you this is the truth about something or another. As if like the truth is that you're on this planet and you die and everybody dies. The game's over. So that's the truth that we have to work with. So during that period of being engaged in this game, you can bring potential to the table. You can pay attention to things. You can expand it out. You can have all kinds of amazing experiences. Hey, that's pretty good, I think. So playing with influences is really the whole matrix of opportunity. So anyway, if you get any questions, go ahead and send your questions to chris@wizardscatch.com. I'd be glad to entertain your questions. I will either answer them with an email or I will do a talk that will entertain some of those ideas. And so thank you much and talk to you soon.